How's it going? What's up? Can you hear me? First of all, most importantly, can you hear me? How do I sound? Because this is the first time I'm streaming to this channel on this PC, and my audio levels could be all over the place. I have no idea. I'm pretty sure I adjusted the mic, but this mic used to make people's ears bleed on first hearing. So, all right, sounds good.
And
Good.
I'm gonna check my levels real quick. Mission Impossible, classic style. One, two, three. Toast, toast, toast. And then the CIA comes in, and I don't have the knock list. If you remember that?
Yeah, but that
Yeah, okay.
movie. When did that even come out? It
That
was
was
like
like
the
I think
'80s.
no, the Tom
Mission
Cruise
Impossible.
version,
Oh,
the
I
Tom
don't know.
Cruise one. I think that was
You're sounding good.
who is this? Who just said 5 by 5? You're my hero.
Jabber.
Well
Anyways,
done.
hi, I'm Galen Herbst Cortina, or Chigginators, and this is.
Ernest Jones, aka Warbnull, the CPA, the boring one, the one who says no on the show.
It's hey, you know what? I've actually had to do plenty of no's recently to clients, but and I'm a financial planner, and this is Your Brand, Your Business, where we talk about the business and finance and tax side of streaming. We have been on a bit of a hiatus because, frankly, end of year is super busy for actually getting people's stuff organized because there's all sorts of things that, and maybe you're familiar with this in the audience, but there's all sorts of things that you're supposed to do throughout the year that no one does until it's right up on the deadline. And then we have to be the ones being like, you should do it, you should do it, you should do it, did you do it? And then they're like, oh crap, I didn't do it. And they're like, all right, we'll help you do it.
And then compounded with that, we had this little thing that's been in the news for the past month about the government shutting down. And so that caused issues as well.
The
And so,
IRS was not open.
yeah, so my favorite thing to do over the past month has been to send Galen various like articles, be it the LA Times or the Washington Post or the New York Times, just all fake news, and it being like IRS not prepared. Today's headline was they're going to it's going to take a year to recover,
Yep.
from this 30-day shutdown.
Yep.
That's the ripple effect of it all. So going to be a fun season, everyone.
Because the
But
best
that's not,
way to pay for all of your stuff in the government is to not fund the people who collect your money. Anyways,
we're not here to talk about that.
no,
right?
that is not
We're
what we're
here to
talking about today. We both just got back from PAX South a week ago, and so today we were going to talk a bit about how we as business owners prep for a conference that is a mixed bag of fun and work, both. Because hey, that's one of the joys of the streaming industry is that a lot of the conferences that you're going to are things that are fun anyways. And then also how we have followed up subsequently from the conference to make sure that we did the best due diligence without also being super annoying, needy people. So I think one of the first things that I'd like to hear is just, Ernest, what do you normally do to prep for a conference?
So I'm going to give two kind of branching paths on this answer because I do two types of prep. So for TwitchCon, and Galen knows this, I had things mapped to the 30th, I'm sorry, to every half hour. I knew where clients were, I knew what events were, and like me and Galen would run across to each other. I was at like Loco and Hunter did a StreamerSquare thing, and I ran into them there, and I like was super amped up and over caffeinated, just like, hey, how's it going? Just wanted to meet you in person. Hey, I'm gonna go now. But it's really nice to meet you. I'm gonna go. See ya. Um, and then kind of what I did for PAX South was because Galen browbeat me into going because they are fantastic networking opportunities. It's
And
such
PAX South is dirt cheap.
yeah, it's dirt cheap, and it's such a remote industry. Streaming, game dev, all of those things that I touch. That it's good to actually meet someone and meet them in person, just hang out for a couple of minutes and just shoot the breeze. I had one prospective client who was there, who's doing some stuff that are exciting that I can't really talk about, but met with that person, had coffee, and just spent some time with them. Talked about it's funny, we used to play an MMO, an old ancient MMO together, not with each other, but just like we talked about all these dumb systems and stuff and kind of bonded over that. And then the rest of my plan for PAX South was just to glom on to Galen and see what fun stuff he was going to get into. So what about you, Galen? How do you prep usually?
So I've kind of actually changed my approach a bit to this kind of prep. When I was first going to industry conferences, like gaming industry conferences, I did a lot more preparation around finding out exactly who would be there, finding out, sending out a bunch of emails to see if people would meet with me, because I provide a professional service, and so it's something where you generally need to be the one reaching out to someone unless you're getting a direct referral, to see if they'd schedule like a lunch or a drink or something like that. Put a lot of time into like figuring out which panels I wanted to go to, if there are particular booths that I want to hit, blah blah blah. And that served me well initially when I was looking to make more connections in the streaming industry. Now that I've been at this for a couple of years, I am fortunate enough that I tend to know at least a couple people going to every convention I'm going to go to. And at TwitchCon, I know now too many people in terms of like, how do I go see all their panels? There are 3 at once. I don't know if I can schedule it. So originally I prepped a lot like that, where it was really, really super organized. Since then, partially because some friends kind of ragged on me for being so planning focused, I have toned that back a bit. So, for instance, for PAX South, I knew a couple of my clients were going to be there, so I wanted to make a point of reaching out to them and seeing if I could buy them a meal or a drink or something like that. And I had 1 or 2 prospects who were going to be there, so I tried to see if we could set up something, or worst comes to worst, if we couldn't set up something, if we were both going to be at the same event, so that we could actually chat there. But really, one of the most important things now I've found is figuring out what events people are going to be at afterwards, and seeing if it's something that like I can either get on the list for, or something that I would have been invited to anyways. But like, I've transitioned a lot from the plan for everything and move a bit more into the be where people are going to be, and things will happen from there. Now, I think I actually did it right at first to be, when I had fewer people that I knew in the industry, to be a lot more planning focused. And I think I'm doing it right now that I know a few more people in the industry, to be a little less sort of planning focused. Although I will say, for TwitchCon, I did make a point of seeing every client who was there, which did actually take a lot of panel scheduling around, because that's usually the time where you can be assured that someone's going to be there.
AKA, he copied my test sheet.
Yeah, basically. The other thing that I did specifically for PAX South, and actually relating to, unfortunately, what we were talking about earlier, because the U.S. government was shut down, there were a lot of travel delays because people for the TSA weren't getting paid for their work. So I did a lot of planning around giving myself really big windows in which I could hit my travel times, because I lived near Los Angeles and PAX South is in San Antonio, so I was definitely gonna have to fly, and generally can get a direct flight there, but pretty much no matter when you're traveling to LAX, it's not fun, just a lot of traffic and that kind of thing, and it's a big busy airport, right? So like, if there are delays somewhere, there tend to be delays at LAX as well. So a lot of the extra planning I did was around making sure that I hit my appropriate times for travel, so I was actually on the plane, moving, that kind of thing, and then making sure that I had time each day for downtime, because it tends to be, especially if you're going to events after the conference, that you're up pretty late, right? And in a normal, this is part of like just knowing myself. In a normal day, even a normal weekend day, I'm not going to bed at 2 a.m. very often, right? But at a conference, that's kind of what I'm expecting. So I did actually try and plan ahead of, okay, when can I like make sure that I don't have things booked so I can go back to the hotel and sleep for a bit, or maybe make sure that I don't have anything scheduled until like 11 in the morning, so that it's not a big deal that if I went to bed at 2, I don't have to wake up at like 6 to meet someone. So those were the, I'd say, bigger things for me, in terms of like forward-looking planning. One thing that I know is a little different sort of on the content creator space, where I think it kind of depends on where you are in your potential career with it. But I think it kind of your planning as a content creator actually would kind of mirror what I have described in terms of how I have transitioned my prep. And the reason I say that is because when you're just starting out, you'll probably have to be doing a lot of the outreach, right? You'll have to be reaching out to the game devs who will be there, to the different vendors that are going to be there, to get some time with them. You'll be responsible for essentially some proof that you are worth their time. It sounds very Spartan, and I actually kind of intend it that way because they are in very high like intensity situations when they're at conferences, especially if they've got a booth. So if they're going to take time away from doing that, they have to make sure that it's really potentially worth it for them. So when you're starting out, don't have a big viewership, aren't partnered yet, that kind of thing, you probably have to spend a lot of time scheduling with different vendors, making sure that you are the one tracking down party invites, making sure that you know who your different like friends and contacts are going to be there and that you have time with them.
Well, we have a friend who probably didn't need to do this, but this person on Sunday, remember we were going to go get pizza, and this person's like, "You want to come along?" And this person said straight, "No, I need to go to each individual indie vendor, indie game dev, and see what's up and see if there's any sort of relationship there."
Yep.
And based on what I know of the person, I'm sure that they were prepared with metrics and things if they weren't aware of who it was, and ways to say like, "This is who I am. You know, is there any sort of relationship that can start from here?"
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's and you mentioned a good point too.
And they had a tiny belt hat, you know.
Yeah, I did notice that. Yeah, you make a good point though of as a content creator, one of the things you can definitely do if you are still in that sort of you are reaching out to people when you're going to conventions is have reasonable metrics set up for what your stream looks like, what your viewership looks like, if you've done any campaigns in the past, what the sort of success rate of that campaign was, those kinds of things, because that can make you a lot more interesting. I have some clients who, by just viewership, I would never expect that they do as well as they do financially. Like if I were just sort of scanning the directory, and yet they have put in a lot of the time and effort to prep for these kinds of events and to do their campaigns, that they have frankly surprising revenue numbers in the positive way. So a lot of that prep work makes sense the earlier you are in your in your actual career. Ernest, once you're there, figurative boots on the ground, what is it that you're doing to maybe you wear boots, I don't know. What is it that you're doing to sort of determine how you're leading your day?
So what I do, and this is kind of a general networking tip. So what I do is you may be familiar with this term, it's called an elevator pitch, right? So being able, say you're in an elevator with Jeff Bezos, and you have a great idea, and it's for a waffle maker, a Wi-Fi enabled waffle maker. You have to be able to consolidate and pitch that idea in 30 seconds on an elevator ride and be able to, quickly explain what it is and what the hook on it is.
Have you ever wanted waffles, but you're too lazy to get out of bed?
Yeah, all the time. Waffles are superior to pancakes in every way.
I often agree with that statement.
I mean, yeah, no, I like pancakes as well, but I think waffles are the superior breakfast food between the two.
Your average waffle is better than your average pancake.
Oh, it's my cookie, my chocolate chip cookie take. I'll give that at the end of this. So that's a tease. But essentially, so anytime, since I was glomming onto Galen a lot of PAX South, he had to hear this. And like, I had a quick elevator pitch for both of us, right? So it's like, this is who I am. This is Galen. This is what we do. Blah, blah, blah. I'll give you the exact pitch. And we would talk to people. I'm a CPA. I focus on tax. Galen's a financial planner. I look towards the past. Galen looks towards the future. So, if you have tax needs or financial planning needs, we're your people. And that's really quick and succinct. And it doesn't, it doesn't oversell, undersell us. It's who we are, what we do. And so that's one way I lead kind of walking the con floor, because you never know who you'll meet. You're just like walking around, introducing yourself, like, hey, who are you with, right? Because you just don't know, right? It's a small industry, but it's a very anonymous industry, I think. So there's, you have people who stream without cam. You have people you may have seen on Twitter. I was very rude. We were at Waxy's, and this person comes up, and I'm talking to Galen. He's over I'm at the bar. He's over my right shoulder, and I'm just staring at this person. I'm listening to Galen, but I'm staring, and I'm giving you the look right now that I was giving this person. It was like, I know you. I don't know where, and I debated whether or not being like, hey, I'm sorry to be rude. I know you from somewhere. Then the person got the drink and walked away, and Galen was like, oh no, it was this person. I was like, that's where I know them from. So I went off on a tangent a bit, but the way I lead is, I think, I just very friendly, try to introduce myself when I talk to people, what I am, what I do, and then to see where it goes from there, right? They just may want to get a drink. They may want to, talk about Star Wars Galaxies, that old MMO. They may want to talk about WoW. They may want to talk about, the launch of, what's that game that everyone's mad about with the load problems? Is it Into Armada? Anthem. And so just see where the conversation takes you, and have an open mind. Because Galen, you made this point, and I want you to tell the people about it, is that you didn't really leave, because you went to PAX South last year, and you didn't really walk with any like hard concrete, like, I have this many clients from it. Nope. But what did you walk with?
Yeah. So and this is something that I think is a little different. Actually, it's probably going to be true with a lot of broadcasters as well. For what I do for work, it is extremely unlikely. In fact, it's not even extremely unlikely. It's nigh guaranteed that I will not that it is nigh guaranteed that I will leave a convention without a single new client signed. Why is that? Because there's actually a lot involved with like figuring out if the service makes sense, and pricing and follow up and all sorts of regulatory things that I have to do. So I never leave a conference I guess I never go to a conference expecting that I will leave with a new client. What I do hope to do is leave with new contacts, people who I've gotten to hang out with, who now know who I am, what I do. Maybe it's someone who is a potential client, and we got to meet face to face, and now they, and now we'll do like schedule a follow up call. But I would expect that the same thing would be true for broadcasters who are going to talk to one of the devs who are there, for instance. The odds that you'll go there, talk with them, and walk away with a signed sponsorship or an affiliate deal with them is pretty low, I guess I'd say, unless there's someone who really just offers like an affiliate thing to everyone. But what you now do have is a face to a name, maybe a specific contact there, someone who would recognize you when you reach out, and potentially an agreed upon time to talk later. And I think it's really important to manage that expectation, because it's easy to get, at least for me, it's easy to get disappointed if I don't achieve what I hope to at an event. And so part of what I've done over the course of going to many events is tuned my expectation. I'm not going to be walking away with a new client, but I may be walking away with some new prospective clients, or even some just good connections. From PAX South of 2018, so not this past one, but the one before, I didn't get any new clients at PAX South. But from the connections that I made at PAX South, of just making friends with people and hanging out with them and interacting and being someone who shares an interest in, Twitch and streaming and that kind of thing, I eventually had maybe 3 clients come out of it way down the line. Like the first of those 3 would have signed with me, of the ones I'm thinking of at least, would have signed with me in September, and PAX is in January, right?
And one of them I think you ran into at PAX, and they're a pretty big one, right? Yeah. In December?
Yeah, exactly. So it's the kind of thing where, and that was a referral from someone I met at South.
Yep.
And so it's the kind of thing where even if you go into these things very well prepped, you need to make sure that you know what it is that you're looking to walk away with. And frankly, if you're going to a conference and it's an in-person thing, and like Ernest said, we're a highly remote/virtual industry, what you want to be walking away with is the people connection. That's the thing that makes things move. Heck, even Twitch itself, which is a company which has become a fairly large company, right? Frankly, you get more things done if you know the person who to talk to at Twitch than going through their publicly available channels. It's just that kind of a thing.
And they're still, for as remote and as advanced as we are from a business perspective, where you can do a lot of things remotely, there is still magic in seeing someone, seeing the space they occupy, seeing their facial reaction and their tics and their little idiosyncrasies, and like giving them a fist pound or hug or whatever, and establishing that relationship, that connection.
Ernest is very smart in sticking with the fist pound so that he does not get sick.
Some people gave me the handshake, and I was like, man, I don't want to do this. And I had a sore throat for a couple of days, and I think it was just like the being in the recycled air. I'm okay, but no PAX box. So
yeah, no PAX box. But that is actually something that I should remember better, because I'm a big time hugger, and like I see my clients if I see my clients, I'm like, hey, and that is how you get sick. So I need to probably be smarter about that.
As an aside, we were talking about potentially doing one of those VR setups.
Oh God, yeah.
My initial reaction was, I'm not doing that. That's how you get.
There were some pretty cool VR demos, but I would not want to do a VR demo where 50 people had worn that headset before me, even if they wiped it down. So there's actually one area of prep and during conference and after conference time that we should hit on where you and I differ, which is business cards. So for me, I've got, I think it's this one. Yeah. I've got this box of business cards right here, right? And I'll throw 20 of those, 30 of those in, my backpack and carry 10 of them in this little business card holder for the entire thing. And, it's something where it's got the basics, name, contact information, a little bit about what I do, my company logo. And it's a really convenient way for me to hand that to someone who I've been talking with, not walk up to someone who I've never interacted with before and be like, bam, and then walk away. But instead, someone I've been talking with at the end of it, and I often need a reminder to do this because I'm not great at remembering to do this, but be like, by the way, here's my business card. Why? Because when you talk with someone at a conference, you might have just talked with 10 different people at a mixer and not remembered all of their names. You're human, right? Like, yeah, frankly, if you do remember all of their names, whoa, I'm impressed.
Well done.
But so one of the things that you can do prep-wise, in my opinion, is get decent business cards. Not wacky business cards that are weird-ass sizes that won't fit in my business card holder, and not ones that, don't have the information that you need for someone to follow up with you. But if you've got a nice basic business card with your information that's easy enough to hand out and you keep a couple on you, it's just an easy way for people to follow up if that's what you're looking for. Like I said, you really don't want to be just like, spraying them out.
You don't want to be pushy with a card.
Exactly.
If you're pushy with a card and someone just randomly, if Galen were to come up to me and just like, hey, here's my card, I do this, see you later, I'm throwing that thing in the trash super fast. I might do it in front of them. I won't, because I'm not rude.
I've not done it in front of people, but there were definitely a stack of business cards, even from TwitchCon, that I left in the room because when I looked at the card later, I had no clue who the person was. Right? And I took every, if someone gave me a card and it seems extremely unlikely that they would ever be a client, but I remembered who that person was, I held on to it. But if it was someone where I looked at this and was like, boy, I can't put any sort of recollection of this person. Maybe I even bothered to look them up on Twitter or something like that to see who they were. And I'm like, I don't remember this person at all. I didn't hold on to it. Yeah. And that has to be 20 times as true for, game
content
devs.
Creator?
Yeah, both or creators as well.
Because it's competitive, and people, listen, I've seen a lot of polished content creators and broadcasters who have cards who are very, very good posture, very matter of fact. And you've had these conversations, Galen, it starts and you're like, oh, this person seems nice. And it's then, wait, they want something. Right? Or it's they're looking to see what you can do for them and who you are and what you know. Mm-hmm. And so I would say don't do that either.
Which I would say don't be too over the top, but sometimes the point of being at a conference is a piece of that, right? I don't mind a bit of that. I frankly don't, because that's a part of why they're making the effort to be at this thing in person. But don't be only that. Be a social human. Like that's what we care about in general. The So this is one that, like I said, Ernest and I differ on, because Ernest does not bring cards.
Yeah, hold on. So I have takes. I have scorching hot takes for this.
Okay.
But before we get into it, I have a question for the general chat, just to get them involved. So just quick show in chat if you've attended a conference in the last 18 months, be it a PAX or a cosplay con like a Dragon Con, MagFest, TwitchCon. Just out of curiosity, kind of what that population is for if you have attended a conference in the past 18 months. So my take, so I had to preface this because it's going to be scalding hot. For me personally, I think cards don't work. I've never given out a card and someone got him back to me. And I tell them that, like, hey, do you have a card? And I'm like, I don't know if you're humoring me or if you're really interested or whatever. So I said, I don't bring cards. I just don't. And what I tell them is, what is your Twitter? What's your email? Give me your card. And I tell them, I will follow up with you. I'll give you a brief email or a brief Twitter DM. Here's my email. This is who I am. I'm the CPA. We met at this booth. We talked a couple of things. If you'd like to reach out or you have any questions, feel free to respond and let me know if we can do anything. Otherwise, good meeting with you and best of luck in the future. And so let me see here. I've got the stack of cards actually from PAX South. So I had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 7, and then I had some Twitter contacts. So probably call it 10. I did all of that. So PAX South was last weekend, which was the 20th, like the
19th, 20th.
19th. Yeah, had all those responses done. One thing I do is as soon as the person walks away or I have a moment, I'll take a note on my phone, like, hey, there's this person, this is what they are, like brief their ex-partner, or they're a game dev, or, we met at this booth and this is their Twitter, respond, And I do that systematically, just very brief. It takes 10 seconds for them to read that email if they read it. And I found that's more productive for me because at least, and maybe it may be a mental health thing, because I find like it's expectations. Like I give out a bunch of cards and like I feel like I have good connections and just crickets, just absolutely nothing. So for me, I found that it's like, well, at least I'm being proactive and it's like, hey, they just didn't respond. So that's fine. And I've gotten some okay success that way. So, that's what I do. And then I found, some people are like it's off-putting to say like, hey, I don't do cards. And I could tell from their reactions. They're like, who's this guy? And then I do walk them through it. Like, look, it's not that I think of like big time or whatever. No, I will respond. It just doesn't work for me.
Yeah, and that's fair. I mean, you got to know what works, like, for you. Because I know for certain, like, as dumb as it is, you're going to be the one, when you're working with streamers, you're going to be the one reaching out. They should all be reaching out to you for tax help because they all fucking need it, but they don't.
Right.
You have to be the one reaching out. So in that case, I actually follow the logic behind that. I don't, I think it makes sense.
Right.
Assuming
Now,
people like actually understand why it is that you're doing it. I have cards because, frankly, for me, it's just easier to be like, yeah, here you go, and they cost me $30 for like 500.
Yeah, and it's not a cost thing either. I also feel that, it's truly, I think, mental health. Now that I've talked it out loud on the show, is because I give a card out and then I thought we had a good connection and like, yeah, no, when you talk tax specifically. I had this interaction with someone who's a partner at a streaming site who cannot be named. It's not the greatest. That's Twitch. So hashtag not ad, but willing to take it. The person was like, I got introduced to the person and they were like, oh no, this person's a CPA. They work in the industry. They do taxes. And the person did that thing. I can't remember whose chops I was busting at South, but I was like, It was when we went for 3-pound cinnamon roll. It was don't do that. Don't go when someone introduces themselves and then you realize who they are. Don't do the perk up like, oh, hello. right? And this person kind of did that. Like, wait a minute, I need that service.
Yep.
And he was like, do you have a card? And he said no. I was like, all right, give me your Twitter. The person's email was there. And I emailed them and said, like, hey, we met here. I was introduced by this person. This is what I did, or this is what I do. Reach out if you need to have any questions or you want to do anything going forward. And so that way I don't have to think about, man, that guy really wanted me to do stuff. And it seemed like he was very interested. And I don't know if they lost my card or whatever. So I can point to an email.
I just assume that streamers are way too busy to follow up unless I'm the one pushing it, frankly. And that, there are positive and negative connotations to that. But I just tend to assume, especially since they're going to be paying me for a service if we do work together, that they are too busy to follow up. Not that they don't need the service or not that they don't want the service, but just that they are too busy doing the whole, streaming thing. And
ultimately, they're going to be paying us, right? So you can make an argument that we should be going the extra step, much like they go the extra step with a game dev.
Well, and that's actually, you beautifully done, Ernest. You hit on the thing I wanted to flip around. We've been talking about our perspective as it relates to streamers, but if you're a streamer, that is frankly your perspective as it relates to game devs, unless you're a real big dog on Twitch. If you're to the point where your email is flooded by 1,000 different contacts when you're going to a con, unless you've hit that point, you're going to be doing what we're describing right now, which is probably taking the onus on yourself to make sure that something gets done. It's not that the person doesn't want to do things with you, necessarily. Maybe they don't, right? But I wouldn't assume that if you don't get contact from someone you gave a card to, it's because they don't want to work with you in some capacity. It may just be that they are overwhelmed with all of the other things that they are working on. And, frankly, showing a bit of initiative of not just I gave you a card at a con, but also followed up, hey, it was good to talk with you. Mention, like Ernest said, some connection point that you had. I have a friend who's a streamer who has on his business card like a white square on the back for you to write notes on, that he will write notes on about like people, which is great because you remember it 10 seconds later or a minute later, you don't remember it 3 days later. But if you are going to be exchanging cards with people at events, actually take the time to follow up, because probably nothing's going to come of it if you don't.
And one thing I always hear, I think I could be putting words in their mouth, but I feel like I've heard Hunter and Loco talk about this, is that you don't know where a contact in the game dev industry will lead you, right? They could just be a CM, and not diminishing that role, just a CM at one company, and then they move on, and now they're, a director of a game or something, and they move up the chain, and people change gigs, right? And they're like, I've worked with Chigginators before.
Yeah.
Let me,
or there's someone you meet at a bar who's a CM for a game that is not in your wheelhouse, and then they move companies to a AAA that is in your wheelhouse, right? Like, there are all sorts of things like that make a lot of sense. But I think a big gist, the big gist of sort of during the con that we're talking about is, like, when you're actually at the con itself, be prepped, be people focused, because that's the reason that you're there, and take that little bit of extra time to position yourself to follow up well. Cons are whirlwinds, right? Like you're doing a ton of stuff, all hours of the day, tons of people. What you want to be doing during the convention is, yes, meeting the people who are there and being people focused while you're there, but also preparing yourself to be able to come back to the kind of important business follow-ups later. Because during the event, you shouldn't be doing those things. You should be out taking advantage of the fact that this is a limited time where people will actually be in person together in a very remote industry.
Where, multiple people. Like, there was an event. So again, I glommed on the Galen most of the weekend. There was something specific he wanted to get to because there was something that, that meant something to him personally. It would involve charity, and there was a limited window, right? So he took advantage of that opportunity and said, like, I'm going to go hang out for an hour or two, shoot the breeze and just hang out and see who comes through. We met a couple of people that, could potentially be something down the line. I don't think I exchanged any information with anyone, but I think maybe I
You got
did.
to say hi in person
Yeah.
to someone who is a higher up at an agency that you've worked with. You got
Yeah.
to, I mean, you certainly got to meet the St. Jude folks, right? Who are
Yeah, yeah,
great
yeah, yeah. I was
people.
trying to think if I actually exchanged information with them. I don't
Oh,
think we did,
maybe.
but yeah, but it's that thing where just you know people,
Yeah.
right? So it's, oh yeah, no, we met. That's what that person does,
Mm-hmm.
right? Or I had somebody vice, and I think this happened both ways. Reach out to Galen, and said, hey, who's that CPA that you're always talking about, or who's that financial planner you're always talking about?
Mm-hmm.
So it's those little connections because I mean, there's this turn of phrase that's still very true to this day. Fortunately and unfortunately, it's not what you know, it's who you know, right? And it's it's kind of like if you know a lot of people and they like you, it's kind of like being bored on third base, like you kind of set.
Yeah. And again, I think that is kind of the point of these things. Like, and that is something that isn't, if you're newer to going to cons, that's something that's not necessarily obvious ahead of time. But really, like, now I've gone to, upward of 20 different conventions in between this and the financial planning space. And
Oh, okay.
realistically, in my first go around for each of them, I was super focused on the conference. In my second and subsequent go to each of those, I was focused on the people. And really, that's what you care about. Hunter, my God, you've been to a convention. But Hunter's one of the ones who probably gets his and HB Fox's emails blown up. But even so, like, point being, focus on the people when you're at these things. Make yourself available for the people. And make yourself available for the after events that you can find. One of the things I actually did do to prep for PAX, like I said, I tried to not over prep, but one of the things I did do to prep for PAX was reach out to my friends who I knew were going. Say, hey, what events are you going to? Do a brief search on like Eventbrite and Facebook and stuff like that, because people always put together lists there. And just, reach out to some of my current clients who weren't going, or some of my current professional contacts who weren't going, and say, is there anyone that I should talk to there, or that you want me to talk to for you there? Those kinds of things help. I mean, I had someone I talked to because a professional contact had been meaning to get in touch with them and hadn't, and I was able to go and be like, oh, hey, it's good to meet you. Here's how you follow up with them, that kind of thing. But just a simple contact like that. So, with all of these things, focus on the people. Even if you're going to see a particular vendor, like say you really want to talk with, I don't know, BioWare. Who is there? Say you really want to talk to Discord. Who is there? Right?
Oh, yep.
Focus on meeting someone at Discord, not going and talking to Discord the company, right? Because it's that person contact that you make at the convention, who if you go out with a drink, go out for with a drink later, that's the kind of thing that translates into you actually moving forward. Like,
Hello, Mr. Discord. I'm here
Exactly,
for the Discord
yeah.
monies. I would also like a hoodie and a wampus. Thank you. Good day.
I bought this freaking Wumpus, okay? I wasn't handed a Wumpus. I bought this Wumpus. My own hard-earned dollars. Not at South.
Hashtag not an ad.
At West last year. It's a limited edition Wumpus. See, it's got the special little leaf on its head, and that makes it so special. But, yeah, as Hunter said, the only thing that matters is those personal contacts. It's totally true, and it sounds crazy because this is an industry where you like we've harped on, where you don't see people face to face often. So when you do get a chance to, take advantage of it. And frankly, learn where people are going for events afterwards. Also learn where people are going just to hang out after the events, or if they don't have something that night. So
PAX South is always Waxies, right?
Waxies and
what's the other one?
on the rocks.
On the rocks,
And then, like Pat O'Brien's and stuff like that. But just the point is, try and learn where people are going to go hang out. And don't hang out there handing out business cards, like we said earlier.
And don't be
But
like
go
the
there
guy
with
in
a
the
friend and
painting
grab a drink.
staring out into the window
Yeah,
as
don't be
everyone
earnest. Staring at random people at the bar, going, Who are you?
Who are? It's just hold on. So this is a good actual topic, I think. So we talked about, at least I forced this topic a lot while we were hanging out this past weekend, is that, what is the proper approach? And I think you got it right, Galen, is that when you recognize someone, but you don't recognize them, right? Because you see a lot of faces, like you're scrolling through Twitter and you see someone and you know them, but because, again, it's a remote industry and seeing someone in person is a much different experience than seeing someone on a stream or a small Twitter photo. What do you think? What is your
Twitter
approach?
photo still a Raichu?
No, I know I changed it. I changed it.
Good.
I couldn't listen. I can make
Speaking
an
of
business cards, but I can't make an argument for my Twitter page, my Twitter profile picture not being one of my stupid face.
All right, sorry, go on.
No, it's fine. But I mean, so Galen raised the point about that, in that you should just say, like, hey, you should just respectfully, I apologize, I don't mean to be rude, but I know you from somewhere, I don't know where, and just introduce yourself, rather than just kind of just like obviously gawking at someone.
Yeah, I have definitely gone up to people and say, hey, we've chatted on Twitter before, totally cool if you don't recognize who I am, but here's who I am, wanted to say hi. And that's it. And frankly, if then the sense that I get is they say hi and aren't interested in more, I'll walk away and continue doing whatever it was that I'm doing. But sometimes that leads into conversations. I mean, don't stare creepily. But go up and say hi. I'll say, Grizzly Ben did that to me at TwitchCon, came up and said hi, and we've talked on Twitter or in Discord and stuff like that. And it was super cool. I felt like a really fucking special person that someone was like, wait, we've talked before, right? Like that goes a long way in an industry where you aren't with them day to day, right? Like that is cool shit. But be normal about it, I guess I'd say. And not like weird and creepy about it. Anyways, we've talked about Ernest being weird and creepy for 45 minutes, and there's way more.
There's way more. There's so much. There's so much. In fact, I have a Grizzly Ben story. We met at the Would You Kindly event, and I had a couple drinks, and a big thing happened, and we were talking about it. I was like, no, it was that thing with that guy who said the thing about like I don't want viewers, and it's taken out of context, I think, to a degree. But whatever, we can do.
That guy. I consider myself better than the average Twitch viewer or whatever.
That thing. But like this person was someone who did it as a hobby, and it was a question about engaging community. So both sides, not to, he was essentially saying like, look, I'm not looking to like engage in a community. I'm just here for fun. And so I was like at a high top with him, and I was just like, yeah, man, like I just like people who are true to themselves. If that's who that person is, then cool. And then I slammed an old fashioned and walked away.
Oh my God.
Which is just a great impression to leave. Hopefully he doesn't remember that, but I think he may.
The thing I wanted to move to.
Sure, yeah. I thought we were talking about creepy stuff that I do.
The thing I wanted to move to was once you've gotten back from a conference, what do you do to tie a bow on that event? What do you do to sort of complete dealing with that event and moving on with your day and working life and so on and so forth?
So I organize. So what I do is I review my notes from it. You and I had a call about business opportunity planning with a thing that cannot be mentioned. And then I did my follow-ups. And to me, that's it. That's a bow on it. Whatever happens from there will happen from there. And then that's in the past, and we'll see what happens going forward at the next convention if we see any people there.
So,
what about you?
T Hoops makes a good point, which is I do. So when I come back from the conference, honestly, the first thing that I do is like give myself a day to recover from travel, assuming I can afford it. There are some times where like actually getting back from South, there had been a bunch of like client meetings and stuff I'd pushed off because I was going to South, so I had to do all of those. But I try and give myself like a day to recover because I always underestimate how much travel impacts me in terms of sleep schedule, in terms of how well I'm feeling, in terms of just how like stressed I'm feeling. So that's the first thing that I do is try and just take some time off, hang out with my wife, pet the cats, right? Like that kind of thing. Play some video games. Um, After that, T Coop says, send some 50 emails right away with the cap at the end, which I appreciate. I actually wait usually 3 or 4 days before I send emails because I never know if people are tacking on a trip at the end of a convention, if people are just traveling back later than I was, if people are doing the same thing I'm doing of just taking recovery time. But I would like it that when I follow up with someone, my email's hitting the top of their inbox, if possible, or whatever contact method I'm using is hitting the top of their figurative inbox, as opposed to getting buried with the several hundred emails that they didn't deal with while they were at the convention because they were at the convention. So it's wait, relax a bit, use the next couple days to get organized. Look, like I said, go through the cards of people who I really wanted to follow up with on a, hey, we talked about this, it might make sense to do business together, versus the people it's good to follow up with just, hey, it was really nice to meet you, right? Because I think there's nothing wrong with those kinds of follow-ups as well. Or hey, I thought what you do is super interesting and just want to let you know that. Because it's always nice when you get those emails. And then the next thing I do before or after I send those emails is I try and take like I said, a couple days later, a little bit of time to think through essentially how I felt about how the convention went. Were there things that I didn't do that I should have done? Were there things that I thought would be maybe more useful than they were? Were there, did I over or under schedule myself? Those kinds of things. But taking the time to sort of step back and analyze my convention experience itself. So that if I'm going next year, which in general I'm planning on going back to the same conventions, if I'm going next year, maybe I can approach it better. And if it ended up being something not useful, maybe I won't go back. For instance, E3 is in Los Angeles. I live about an hour away from Los Angeles. E3 is in Los Angeles, like heart of downtown LA. I stayed in downtown LA to make sure that I was available for like events and meetings and things like that. Frankly, I don't know if I'm going to do that again. The events were great. I may make it so that I'm like in a position to go actually to events at night after E3, but not necessarily like actually be staying in LA for it. Because
you probably evaluated it and you said like being there during the day make a lot of sense because anyone that you would work with is busy doing events for game devs or things like that, right? And so the most productive time is like the witching hour for you.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
So, where people are at events and they're kind of looking to unwind and just looking to it's better to be there and available when people are in a different mindset.
Yep. Grizzly Ben made a really good point of when you're at those events, don't drink too much and then not remember the event. Absolutely true. And there has definitely been at least one event where after the fact, it was like, I'm glad those drinks hit me after I left and not while I was there, because then I would have looked like an idiot.
I tend to get, not
sloppy,
but I tend to get like more loud and boisterous.
Oh yeah. Oh god. I'm loud and pointy and huggy, and like one of the biggest problems that I run into is after I've had a couple drinks, I want to do what I already want to do, which is like meet people, introduce them to other people who I think are cool. But I'm also much more likely to be like, Ernest, let's go, and like take you and go meet someone who I've been meaning to introduce you to, as opposed to like in a more controlled context. But yeah, absolutely be careful on the booze thing. Nothing wrong with having a drink or two if that's something that you would normally do, but also don't be like, free drinks, because that can be tempting.
I will say at PAX South, all of the free drinks were a disappointment.
Really?
Well, remember we were at that thing and we were like trying to get
we were at Mixer's event. Why are you saying the thing?
No! Oh, I wasn't there.
Listen, I am platform agnostic. We were at Mixer's
As am I.
Which was
not when we're on said platform.
I got very quiet. Huh. Well, let me know if that keeps going on, because I did actually hear a small beep, so maybe that's something I can try and fix. Yeah, those drinks weren't great, but at some other things.
Margaritas weren't good.
No, the margaritas were crap. But I mean, there have been plenty of other events where they were delicious. Let's see, what else do we have coming in? T-Coops, yeah. HB Fox talks about waiting on the recovery time. Absolutely. Uh, Lisa Sama? I hope I'm saying that right. Do we ever draft emails at conventions so I don't forget details and then finish and send them later? I haven't done that specifically. I usually am doing that in notes. Like, you know, I've got this, right? Or like, or just in my phone, I do a lot of notes.
I'll take notes on the person in my phone.
Yeah.
Because ultimately I do taxes, right? So I think a key thing, I guess, taking a few giant steps backwards is identifying what you are and what you do.
Yeah.
Right. At the core of it, I do taxes and tax compliance and tax prep. So I don't need to like draft an email that's long and wordy. I just need to know about the person, how we met or where we met, hey, we met Sunday in front of the Discord booth. We talked about this. I'm this person. Here's my contact info.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. So I try not to be too wordy in the emails. It's, I can't speak on the other side because I've never courted a game dev to give me an activation or earn an activation rather. But I imagine it's very similar in that it's a slow courting process where you say like, this is my game. This is me.
Mm-hmm.
What can we do? And then eventually it leads to something.
Yeah. Part of the reason that I don't draft emails like at a convention is because if I'm doing that, I'm probably doing it on my phone. And I certainly, at least for me, I get kind of paranoid about if I'm drafting an email, I don't want to put the person's email actually in there because I could accidentally hit send or something like that, right?
The nightmare.
Right? Exactly. So I do it notes in my phone most of the time. I don't think there'd be necessarily anything wrong with doing it that way. It's just not the process that I use. And it's, I don't know, at least for me, I find that notes in my phone plus my recollection of it, of the event or meeting the person are enough to at least meaningfully start communication. Because like I said, I'm not assuming that I'm going to be leaving a convention with a signed contract for someone to work with me, right? I assume that it's going to take some follow-up, some back and forth. If it is something that ends up, becoming like working with someone or even a vendor, like if I'm going to a financial planning conference, even if it's a vendor that I'm considering using for my business, where, therefore I'm the prospect, right? I'm still not doing that there because I want to be able to come home, think through how it'll work with my other systems, make sure that, it actually does make sense for me, all those kinds of things.
It starts from a place of, hey, you say you do taxes. Well, what does that mean? What can you do for me? Right? Oh, you're a broadcaster. You have, X metrics, but what's your community like?
Mm-hmm.
Let's actually talk and see if there's something that you do or something you have that's interesting, and maybe we can find that gap. Right? This is just kind of the waving at someone across the way and then going up and saying hi to them, and then what goes from there, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a great point. That's a good process thing. If it's too dense, make a voice recording if that works for you.
Yeah, that's a great suggestion.
Don't do it in the middle of the con floor. You'll end up with something weird happening.
Background noise or people thinking that you're a strange person.
Yeah.
One of those.
So I think, that's about an hour.
Mm-hmm.
Did you have any high points you wanted to hit, Galen, before we start throwing it to the chat for questions?
No, it'd be more, please type in questions if you've got them for how we approach this. But I would say that from a business perspective, going to conventions can be a very good thing to do, especially in this industry, because it's a chance to make those in-person connections. So do plan for it, but also do budget for it. Like I spent less than $1,000 in total on PAX South. Well, that's really good bang for my buck then, because friggin' a hotel in Seattle or San Jose costs that much when I'm trying to go to West or TwitchCon, right? So, give yourself a reasonable budget for it ahead of time. Actually make sure that you're prepped to take advantage of it so that you're not arriving exhausted.
It probably doesn't make sense for you to go to TwitchCon EU, as cool as it
I'm
would
not
be.
going to TwitchCon EU. I would love to go to Germany. That would be so cool.
Yeah.
But I work almost exclusively with American clients, and it doesn't make sense for me to go to TwitchCon EU, right?
And the cost benefit analysis, it's probably going to cost you,
It costs me
I'm guessing
thousands
like
of dollars.
3-4 grand on the
Yeah.
low end, maybe to get over there.
Yeah, but I would also have a sense of how you're going to so plan for it ahead of time. You know, don't go too wild while you're there. Focus on the people as a summary, and then on the back end, do actually analyze at a couple different points, maybe over the course of the next 6 months to a year. Was it something that you consider worth it for your business? And if not, why not? Was it that you didn't meet the right people, or was it that it's not the right place for you to be? Both are possible, right? And that's something that I think just as a general business principle that you can kind of easily apply to conventions. But make sure that you're taking time to step back and think about it as a business owner. How will this serve my business? And focus on that. Don't subsequently become the person who is like this creepy business robot when you're there, because that's something that is easy to sense, right? Like, and will push people away. You see that. You see the people who just walk around handing out cards at like networking events and stuff like that. And I never hold on to those. And in fact, I'm disinclined to do business with them because they look so desperate that I don't think that they're good at what they do.
The 2 points I would add: make sure you follow up on the with people that you do want to follow up with. And something that you said that you missed in your recap was gauge your expectations.
Yes.
Measure them appropriately so that, you know, so my first TwitchCon, I've talked about this, was to San Diego, the first one. They haven't only that was the second one. First one was San Francisco. So anyway, I had like all these expectations, like, okay, I was going to go here. This is a need in the industry, and I'm going to come out and I'm going to be Daddy Warbucks at the end of it, you know? And so like I sat with an esports organization owner. I told Galen this story a million times, like for an hour. And we just shot the breeze. I thought it was a really productive meeting. We like talked business and personal stuff and just kind of vision of the industry and all this stuff. Never heard a peep back. Networked with a bunch of people and just, you know, like it eventually led to stuff, but it wasn't within that year. It took 3 years for it really to be like, oh yeah, that's that guy. Oh, hey, it's him, right? Not, oh no, it's him. So, you know, just gauge your expectations. It's a process. It's not going to be, you know, instant fire.
Right.
You know, it could be, but
it's possible.
Let's gauge it. It's possible, but more likely than not, it won't. So that's a key thing.
Yep. I think I only have one client who's a streamer who grew faster than they knew what to do with in a short period of time, right? Everyone else, it was a super long slog of not much, but building up until it became like, you know, a full-time thing and building connections over that whole period of time. I mean, you sort of never know if you're making good personal connections in the industry, what will come of it. So keep focusing on that and don't do crazy. You know, don't be too crazy about driving yourself at an event like this, or you'll burn out on going because you'll just face constant disappointment that isn't warranted.
Yeah, this is stupid because it's the thing you'll always hear, but like have fun too. One of my favorite things was there was this thing that happened with a client, and Galen was messaging them, and I filmed Galen responses DMing with the client, showed both, and then sent it to them, and they thoroughly enjoyed that. And their comment was something like, "You're both so stupid," but I enjoyed it. Oh no, I'm sorry. It was quote, "You guys are the best. I should have known better." So you have fun, right? Like it's. I can't wait to do more of that at cons with you, Galen, where I catch you DMing with someone and then filming them and then DMing them.
I don't know about that specific thing, but
no, that's gonna be it's gonna be much like Daniel Stern and Joe Pesci in the Home Alone movies. It's gonna be my calling card. So flooding your home or stealing stuff with sticky stuff. I mean, that's me being creepy. That's the move. That's gonna be my calling card. It's filming you responding to people. Okay, this thing's gone off the rails. So we're not doing a show. I don't see any questions in there.
Yeah, I don't either.
Okay, so we're not doing a show next week because I've got something personal going on, but I'll be back. We'll be back the
week after.
The week after, which is the 11th. the topic pending is going to be related to kind of having a business manager, because some of our most successful cases in terms of getting things done have been the spouses of clients who take on a business management role. So, that's not going to work for everyone, but just kind of
Streamers, I love you, but you are the worst at responding to email. And if your spouse is your business manager, they are my saving grace.
Exactly. So what we want to do is potentially have that person on. We're looking at a couple of guests, and that will allow us to talk about the administrative side of things, right?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I saw Grizzly Ben singing. That threw me off the rail.
Yeah, it's the Wet Bandits. You remember Home Alone?
No, I know. Just seeing it written out. I don't know why, but that got to me. Oh.
Those games were. Did you ever play the Home Alone games out of curiosity on SNES?
No.
They are terrible. Oh. They're like side scroller, they're like the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle.
Those games were fun.
Yes, they're fun, but not the arcade beat 'em ups. So, okay, me and HP Fox have to talk. That's the New York one, and that was not. I didn't think it was that good.
Anyways, we'll be back in 2 weeks.
Discussing,
hopefully with a guest.
And it'll be focused on the administrative side of streaming, because Galen and I can talk about it, but really that doesn't get into all the various things you have to navigate and negotiate, be it sponsorship activations, travel, con, taxes, financial planning, deciding whether or not you need to make a big purchase like a vehicle.
Adding your spouse as a W-2 employee so that you can subsequently max out a 401k for them.
Yeah. So, all those fun things. Fine. Just me. And so, if nothing else, it'll hopefully provide some illumination as to how much actually goes into streaming. I was talking with someone, we had a meeting, and it's not just people see the on-air time and they think, okay, well, you're done and that's it. It's not the case. It's probably a 1-to-1 ratio in terms of time spent broadcast to admin off stream stuff, but it's probably even more than that. Probably 1.25, a factor.
Or at least it could be. If you
should be. It should be.
Everything, yeah.
So.
Yep.
All
right. Who are you and what are you playing right now?
I am Ernest Jones, and I'm still playing WoW, believe it or not. The new season in Mythic is here. Our rogue, by the way, I know you're bred your business. Our rogue was dagger. No. He got new daggers to start the season.
Ooh.
But our demon hunter still hasn't got his glaives, so he's very upset and he's very emo about it. Very in his feelings.
I'll say that's actually there you go. It's really on
a lot going on. But I'm a CPA. I do taxes. And Galen, who are you? What are you playing besides showing me Into the Breach?
Yes. So I am Galen Hipstead Cortina. I'm a financial planner. I work primarily with streamers, although I have plenty of clients who are. I have several clients who are not streamers. Most of them are streamers. As Ernest said, I was showing him Into the Breach. Like 5 minutes before we went live. We were on this Zoom call, and I was screen sharing Into the Breach. Because at the start of the year, I bought myself a really nice new PC that I'm super happy about. Yeah, I can play new games. Oh, I'm going to play an 8x8 pixel game. Okay, never mind. But I'm playing Into the Breach and a lot of Smash until I get really mad at Smash. And that's what I mean. Like, I'll play like an hour of Smash and get really mad at Smash and then stop playing Smash until like a day or so later. And frankly, always Stardew Valley, at least at some level, that friggin' game, that always sucks me back in. I don't know. So, that's me. We'll talk with you guys in 2 weeks. Thanks for hanging out with us.
If you have topic ideas, let us know.
Yeah, thank you. Always send us topic ideas if we have.
We have a list.
Did a good job of planning, but we need more.
Yep, so if there's anything specific you want covered, let us know. Have a good one, guys. Have a good night.